is overgrown. It is overgrown, so I will be pruning it in front of you and I will be showing you exactly how to do it. So, I mean, the reason why I kept this tree as a specimen over here was because, you know, it is almost ready, and so I thought like it would help you out better to understand. So the two things you have to really remember is taper and movement. So taper is nothing but the thickness at the bottom of your tree, at the base of your tree. So can you see the trunk? It is taking a triangular format. It is broad at the bottom and it is just going on, and it gets very thin at the top. At the apex it gets very thin. So how do you create? So whenever you start a bonsai, the first thing you have to do, remember, in nature, every tree is broad at the bottom and it goes narrow at the top. So you have to first concentrate on doing that and creating the taper for your tree. So the best way to create taper for your tree is actually by chopping your tree. If you see, I have done a nice chop over here at the bottom over here. I have done a nice chop. Can you see? I've done a chop there and I've created a new leader over there so that you know, I could show better movement to my tree. And if you think about what is movement, movement is also known as, some people use the word flow. That is the flow of your trunk. The flow of your trunk. If you look at it, you should always have a flow in your trunk. If you have a flow in your trunk, your bonsai will always look very, very beautiful and very interesting. So when you really do bonsai, the first thing you have to concentrate on is the structure of your tree. If you do not concentrate on the structure of your tree, what happens is your bonsai will never look as attractive as you really want it to be. So what happens is, if you compromise on certain issues when you're making your bonsai, what would happen is you wouldn't get a chance. You would make your bonsai, and then after 2 years down the lane, maybe a master can come and see your collection, and then the first thing he would say was, this is looking odd, and this is looking odd, and that is looking odd. And so that if you look back at yourself 2 years, you've just wasted most of your time. So don't waste your time. I would always say, rather cut your tree now and begin making your bonsai, which is very, very important. So right now I've got this beautiful specimen here, which is called the dwarf Gamelina. I had collected this, this is a Yamadori which I had collected in my farm about, I think, 2.5 years ago. I had collected the stump and then I had started creating things. So when you're doing bonsai, remember, I will be showing you more specimens in this video, where very basic specimens, where I will be helping you out in trying to show you how to create taper and how to create movement. If you look at taper, there are two ways of making creating taper for your tree. One is by trunk chopping your tree completely and then beginning with the new leader. The second one is sacrificial branches. Can you see? If you look here, can you see how many branches are starting at the bottom over here, right at the bottom over here? So these are the ones which are going to broaden your tree. You just have to allow them to grow as long as possible so that they get as thick as possible, and the more the thicker they get, the more the taper of your tree is going to increase here. So these lower branches which are here at the bottom here are called sacrificial branches, which you usually do not cut until and unless it is you get certain thickness, of the branches, so that the taper over there increases. Sacrificial branches are very at the base of your tree, almost coming out through your soil. That is a portion where your sacrificial branches usually are. So whenever you get branches here, I always recommend you to keep those branches so that you get that taper. You get a beautiful taper and you will be able to make a bonsai. But for now, I'm going to chop them off and I'm going to show you, so that I'm going to prune this tree a little bit so that you will be able to understand better how the structure of this tree is. So first I'm going to remove all the sacrificial branches, and then again I'm going to allow them to grow over later on, so that you know, because if I keep them now, the trunk is not going to be visible to you all. So I'm going to remove all the sacrificial branches. So if you look at it, see, it is broadening over here because I have kept so much of sacrificial branches been growing, and I've been chopping them, and the taper is just going on increasing day by day, like so. And then I've been training this tree already for the past I think 2.5 years. I've been training this tree, and it is almost getting done. I mean, if you have noticed, my trees are in bags. This is the best way to grow your trees, because the growth is very faster. Remember, never grow bonsai in bonsai pots, because you won't be able to see the bonsai, because the growth gets stunted completely and you won't be able to enjoy the bonsai and finish the bonsai as quick as you really want to finish it. So I would recommend you rather keep it in a bonsai. You'd rather keep it in a bonsai, in a training. These are called, I call them training bags. So you rather keep them in training bags and grow them much faster, so that the growth of your tree is very fast. I wouldn't have been able to finish this in 2.5 years had I kept this in a bonsai pot. So I would rather say grow your trees in bonsai, in training bags or training pots, whichever you are comfortable with. It could be either a plastic pot, or it could be a clay pot, it could be a plastic bag, it could be a growth bag, whatever it could be, but just grow them in bonsai, in training bags, and not in bonsai pots. And when 95% of your tree is done in these training bags, I think that would be the best time when you could shift your tree into a bonsai pot and enjoy it. Also enjoy your trees in such kind of conditions where though it is in a training bag, you can always enjoy your tree. There's nothing wrong in it. So I will answer. I mean, there are a lot of questions coming up on the group over here, but I won't be able to individually answer because the topic will get diverted. But then after the live show, I will definitely answer all those questions individually. I will answer you. So you just have to keep putting up your questions over there, so that I could later on get onto the thing, and I could answer all your questions for you. So let me just finish quickly trimming this tree. I've already been training, like I said, I've been already training this tree for the past 2.5 years. This is one wonderful specimen that you people need to keep in your collection, because it gets beautiful ramification, wonderful ramification, and it's so enjoyable. This gives you yellow flowers, which are like the weaver bird's nest. It's like the weaver bird's nest, and it is so interesting to see the flowers. But right now I don't concentrate on making my tree flower and all. I always more concentrate on having. I concentrate more on having on finishing up my bonsai, rather than enjoying the flower and the fruit, the flower at the moment. Because bonsai, you should never ever lose time. You should try the fastest methods of growing your tree as fast as possible. So if you look at this, I'm almost done with the pruning. There. I'm almost done with the pruning. And maybe I can, I just need... So see, I've almost done with the pruning. Can you see? Can you see the tree? See, that is the tree. Now can you see I've kept back this over here. I've kept the very, very tip over here. The reason why I've kept the very tip over here was I wanted to take the apex to the next level, so that, you know, a little taller, so that I can create a better apex over there, and I'm changing the movement of the tree, if you notice. Now what is movement of the tree is, can you see the flow of the trunk? The flow of the trunk. It is moving in that direction. Now I'm bringing it to this direction. So you have to keep changing the movement. This is called your leader, the leader of your trunk. Every trunk has a leader, every branch has a leader. So you have to keep changing. You have to keep changing the direction of your trunk so that the movement of your tree keeps changing here and there. Remember, when you do that kind of a structure to your bonsai, the structure is what is going to remain with your tree forever, and you will be able to really when you go and display your bonsai somewhere, the first thing that the eye looks at is the structure of your bonsai. So if your structure of the bonsai is perfect, then I think your bonsai will be a wow factor. So people will be, I mean, the moment they look at your bonsai, the eye will automatically move on the structure of your tree. That is the flow of your bonsai, the flow of your trunk, which is also called the movement, which I commonly use the word movement. So if most of you who've attended my workshops, you would have seen me speaking so many times about taper and movement, which is very, very important at the initial stage of a bonsai. So right now, if you look at this tree, I think it is going on perfectly well. Once again, I want to tell you, for those of you who have just joined in the group now, I would like to tell you this is called the dwarf Gummalina tree. Gummalina hysterics, it is called. Usually it is with bonsai people. I don't think you find it common in the nursery, but by God's grace, like I find them on wild growing in my farm over here. So I managed to dig this up about two and a half years ago, and I've started training it from then. It was only a trunk at that moment, and then I had to trunk chop it and then make it grow again. Yeah, it's called the dwarf Gummalina. I just kept this specimen because I just wanted to show you, like, what do you mean by taper. So taper is nothing but the bottom part of your tree. This part of your tree should be the thickest. It should be the thickest, and then as your trunk goes higher and higher, it gets thinner and thinner. So that is what you mean by taper. So when you are doing bonsai at the very beginning, taper is very, very important to your tree, because you are copying. Bonsai is nothing but copying a tree in nature, creating a natural tree. So if you want to create a natural tree, you have to concentrate on taper and movement of your tree. Movement is nothing but the flow of your trunk. If it is straight, it is called a formal upright tree, which is also very attractive. But an informal upright tree is one which has got a lot of movement in its trunk. So informal upright trees are more interesting than formal upright trees. So I'll put this down and let me get another specimen to show you again what is taper and movement, so that you will be able to understand better. You will be able to understand better. So now if you look at this, can you see the taper at the bottom over here? This is the taper. It's so thick at the bottom over here. This is a jade which I have been working upon. Now here again, can you see I got a sacrifice branch over here coming out? I've got a nice sacrifice branch for those of you. Can you see this is a sacrifice branch that is coming out of the tree? So I'm not going to remove it completely, but I'll just cut it off to one node so that it sprouts again. So this also has overgrown a little because I've been traveling continuously and I don't get a chance really to look at my trees and prune them up in time. So I'm giving it a light chop so that you will be able to understand better. And we will be doing a lot of live shows from now, so I'll try to help you to the best possible way, because I didn't like, the reason why I chose to do all these live shows was actually because there are many people around who really want to meet me, who want to learn bonsai. So I thought the best way could be, like, I don't want to keep people waiting for bonsai, because bonsai is already a time consuming hobby, and the more I keep you waiting, the more you're getting back on learning bonsai. So I thought the best way was to catch up with all of you on live shows so that you all could start understanding to make bonsai faster and better, and you can all start making your trees quicker rather than wait for me to come and meet you and teach you how to do bonsai. So now if you look at the movement, of this tree, if you look at the movement, so if you look at the movement, see, this is the movement, how your trunk is moving. Can you see how your trunk is moving, and it is moving to the top over here? So the more your tree moves, see the movement, so beautiful it looks, and it looks very attractive. This is just, I think, a year and a half old. So I mean, almost ready. If you look at it, see, it's almost ready on the if you look on the top, the ramification is already done for the tree. And can you see it is growing in a pot, and it is not growing in a bonsai pot, it is growing in a training pot. So the more you grow your trees in training pots and training bags, the faster you make your bonsai. So this is another tree, like I wanted to show you the movement. Can you see beautiful movement? It's going like lovely flow. Make sure they are not very zigzag like thing. Try to make them very gradual, your bends. And if you've noticed, all the branches that I have on the tree, if you look at the primary branches on the tree, if you look at the primary branches on this tree, all the branches are on the convex side of the trunk. Always keep them on the outer curve. If you keep them on the outer curve of your tree, your tree will look very attractive. Never keep branches on the inner curve of your trunk, because in nature, usually branches don't sprout on the inner curves of your trunk. So always keep your branches on the outer curve. And if while designing a basic bonsai, it is always good, I mean, the moment you design your branches, the moment you keep your branches on the outer curve, what happens is automatically, I think 50% of your design is almost done. So when you keep a new specimen on your table to work upon, always look at the concaves and the convexes of your trunk. The more you keep on the convex side, the better it will be, because your tree will look stunning and beautiful compared to when you keep them inside the curves. So if you notice this tree and the previous tree also, all my branches are put on the convex side and not on the concave. The concave is the inner curve of the tree, and the convex is the outer curve of the tree. So this is it. Now I'm going to take I'll take a very, very raw specimen. I'll take a raw specimen and I will show you how to change. So look at this. So this is a cutting that we've put, I've put, I think about a year and a half ago, I put a cutting like this. So now it's just about how you design your tree. I'm just cutting off the very lengthy ones, okay, so that we get a better idea about how to do the bonsai. So that these lengthy branches don't disturb me. Whenever you're cutting the lengthy branches, remember, always cut it in a triangular format, because the lower branches should be longer than the upper branches. So always cut it in a triangular format so that you don't lose your structure when it is. Now when you are designing a very, very basic, when you're designing a very, very basic tree, the first thing you should remember is you have to look for the flow of the trunk. You should make sure that from the front, the maximum movement should show of your tree. So if you look at it, can you see the flow is just moving like this? But then I am not so happy with the flow, because it is just flowing like this and there's nothing more to the tree. So what I would rather do is, I would rather change the direction of my trunk a little towards the side, and I could take this as the apex. Because the trunk is moving this side. Now I want to push it back that side. So I could take this as the apex of my tree. So I'm going to trunk chop it over there. so that so I have trunk chopped. See, I've taken off such a thick branch. Remember, never grow your trees. See, most of you, what you do is when you buy a bonsai, when you buy a plant in a nursery, the first thing that you'll think is, oh my God, I don't want to lose this because I bought a plant for 200 rupees. Every branch I cut, don't think about it in financial terms like I'm going to lose 100 rupees if I cut off this branch. I'm not going to lose another 50 rupees if I cut off that branch. It looks very thing, and many people like are very reluctant to cut their trees. But until and unless you cut that tree, only then you will get a structure for your tree, and you will get a good taper for your tree. So it is always good that you chop your tree down so that you can do it's always good that you chop your tree down and you start from the bottom, because you have to make the tree listen to you. Make the tree give you branches where you want, rather than just working on what the plant is giving you. If you allow the tree to listen to you, I promise you, your bonsai will be one of the best bonsais ever. But if you just design your trees according to what the tree is giving you, you are not going to make a very good bonsai out of it. So you have to make sure that the branches are placed, and the branches are given by pinching or by pruning. You have to keep making sure that the tree is sprouting out branches wherever you want. That is why when you look at these international bonsais, you would find most of the bonsais internationally are, the branches are so beautifully placed in beautiful positions and at different levels, and so at different levels, so it gives them a better gives the structure a better look, and it's very appealing, and it's a wow factor when you look at the tree after the branches have been placed at the right position. So if you've noticed here, I've already trunk chopped this tree. So now I have changed the movement of my tree completely. I have changed the movement. So have you noticed? Now my tree was moving like this. Directly it was moving towards me. But then now what I did was I changed the trunk. See, I changed the trunk now to this side. I've changed it to the opposite side. So now this is going to be my leader, which is going to be my future, the topmost portion. It's going to be my apex over here. So the moment you change the movement of your tree like that way, it gets more and more interesting. Then if you look at this, there are many branches. There are two branches starting in the same position over here. Can you see? Two branches starting. So I would choose only one branch over there so that it would think. Now remember which is your concave and which is your convex in the trunk. This whole portion on the top, this whole portion over here is your concave side. The whole portion here at the bottom is, the whole portion over here on top is your convex side, and the whole portion at the bottom here is your concave side. So never keep branches on the concave, that is at the bottom. Never keep branches over there. Keep always the branches on the convex side of your tree. So I've got one lovely branch over here which I can use as a first branch. I can use it. Okay. Good. So I've got my first branch over here which I can use as my first branch here. I've got another branch here which I can use as my second branch. But then can you see what is the mistake that this tree, since I have allowed it to just grow wild, this second branch has thickened more than the first branch. Now how do I thicken the lowest branch? Because in a tree, always your lowest branch is supposed to be the thickest branch. So now how do you thicken this branch? All you have to do is, when you want to thicken this particular branch, allow it to grow wild. This particular branch, you just have to allow it to grow long so that it gathers more leaf. The moment it gathers more leaf, this branch will grow faster than this branch. And when you want to slow down the growth of this branch, all you have to do is make sure that this branch has lesser leaf compared to the lower branch. So the lesser the leaf, the slower the growth. The more the leaf, the faster the growth. So remember, you can keep playing with your branches as you keep developing your bonsai. So now I have to thicken. Now I have to, when I'm doing this bonsai, when I'm styling this bonsai, and when I'm developing this bonsai, now I have to start concentrating on thickening the lowest branch as much as possible. The more faster I thicken the lower branch, the faster it will catch up and cross this second branch, which is very thick, and which is much thicker than the lower branch. Okay, so let me just do the initial thing. So I have it like that. I have kept the front towards you. I can remove this and I can create the depth from here. Yes. Yeah. So I'll just get it back towards your side. Let me just, yeah. So now I can just take some wire. Now when you wire your tree, always remember the best way to anchor, you always should have good anchorage when you are working on your when you are wiring your branches. Make sure the anchorage is very good. Make sure the angle of your wire is 45 degrees. Okay, and make sure at the end of it you lock your branch like this way, because so that your wire doesn't slip out of the branch when you make a bend, so that your branch doesn't slip out of the wire, and then you can bend it down like that way. And remember, jades, whenever you think, make sure there is some leaf left behind, so that the sprouts come. If you totally defoliate the branch, there are chances of the branch dying, so just be a little careful. And then I'm doing the next branch. I'm wiring the next branch again. And I'm bringing the next level. So this is one level, this is second level, and this is your apex. This is your apex. So let me wire the apex also and angle it now itself. Again, I'm taking the trunk like that and I'm bringing it back this side. Now if you've noticed, now these branches are inside the curve of the tree. So immediately just close your eyes and remove whatever is inside the curve of your tree. Don't keep them in the curve. Make sure that they are only outside. Okay. Yeah. So can you see now? I have brought such beautiful movement to my tree. Now this movement is going to be very, very important when you do a bonsai. Because when your bonsai develops, it is this structure that is going to be very, very important. Have you noticed there are no branches anywhere inside the curve of the tree? All the branches that are placed are only on the outer curve of your tree. So the moment you make your branches like that, automatically, now this is the structure that is going to show out throughout the life of this bonsai. As it keeps getting matured more and more, this is how it is going to really, this structure is very, very important, which is going to show out as your tree keeps growing over the years. And the moment you look at this tree on maturity, this structure, if you compromise on this particular structure of your tree, I promise you, your bonsai is never going to be good. So never ever compromise on this structure. Remember how big this tree was, and I just kept clipping, least bothered about how much of my tree is going away. Because if I was more possessed about my tree and I didn't want to chop my tree, means I wouldn't get a structure like this way. So the moment you get a structure like this way, I promise you, you're going to make one of the best bonsais. So I request everybody, please just make sure you cut your trees, chop your trees. Don't think you're hurting the tree. Remember, you're going to make it a better tree. A tree that is going to be a wow factor, which is going to be admired by hundreds of people over a period of time. So just try to make sure that you create a structure, a good structure always, before you actually begin with the bonsai. So now you can understand, like, that is the reason why when many people keep sending me, I get so many photographs and people asking me, Veer, can you help me in designing this tree? Photographs are always two-dimensional, so I really get a bit scared. Like, actually, I'm not being arrogant, or neither am I being a kind of a show-off or something and not trying to help you or something. It is just that I'm a little scared that I may spoil your tree because a very important branch, looking at a two-dimensional picture, I would by mistake I would say to chop off that branch, which would actually be very essential for the composition of the tree. So please don't think bad that, like, I wasn't able to help you on the photographs. It's just because, like, I'm a little very reluctant and a little scared about spoiling your tree rather than things. So then I thought these live shows would help you out better. So if you've noticed, remember the first thing always, taper is very, very important when you are initially designing your tree. Movement is very, very important. So you see, now this tape, can you see the taper? Taper is here. I've told you 2 ways of creating the taper of your tree. Sacrificial branches is one way of keeping taper to your tree. Another way of increasing the taper of your tree is doing a trunk chop and creating a new leader and designing your tree with the help of that new leader. That is the other way that you could make a create taper. Movement is nothing but, if you read books and if you watch videos or YouTube videos, you will hear some people saying movement, you will hear some people saying the flow. flow of your tree, flow and movement, both are the same. It just shows the direction in which your trunk is moving. The more the flow and the movement in your tree, the much better your bonsai is going to be and more interesting it is going to be. And when you are designing the flow and the movement of your tree, always remember to keep branches on the outer curve, that is the concave side, the convex side of your trunk. The more you keep on the convex side of your trunk, the much more interesting your bonsai is going to be. So if you look at this design, which is very, very simple right now, but then look at it, how beautiful it looks. Can you see I've changed the movement of the tree? I've brought movement of the tree. And this chop that I made over here, can you see this very big chop I've made over here? All this portion is going to add to the taper of the tree. It's going to add to the taper of the tree like the previous jade I had showed you. If you look at the previous jade I had showed you, see the amount of taper that I have. Can you look at this portion of your tree? This is the taper of your tree. The more you make on this, the more the taper is there over here, the better your tree is going to look and the more natural it is going to look. So always remember to keep the taper of your tree. Concentrate at the initial level itself, concentrate on taper and movement and do your structures first. If you do your structures first, only then you will be able to make a better bonsai. So this is how it goes. This is how it goes. I will gradually, maybe like again after a while, I will get back with the same tree for you. I will get back onto a live show and I can show you how this tree is developing and how this tree would develop, and you would be able to see the transformation of this structure into a beautiful bonsai, so that you will be able to understand a better image about you will be able to understand much better about how you can make a bonsai out of it. So there for all of you, can you see that is the structure? And have you noticed, see, this has become now, see, this was the outer curve, now this has become the inner curve. So I have not kept any branches on the inner curve. This is a back branch, so it is not inside the curve. This is a back branch. I will develop this over here, because remember the junction. Can you see the junction of every outer curve? Every junction should have a branch. It will look very beautiful if you design your trees that way, and it will look very interesting when you do your trees that way, because usually those are the parts of the tree that receive a lot of sunlight, and that is where usually the sprouts come in a natural tree, if you look at it. So this is how you create a structure of a tree. If you want, I've got another specimen I can show you with that also, so that you could understand like that. You would be able to understand. Now look at this here. Now look at this tree over here. This was a tree that was gifted to me by Mrs. Anita Toshniwal from Jaipur. I would love to thank her for this wonderful gift. But the best part of this tree was the moment she gave me this tree. It was a very, very mature tree, and the best joke about this tree was, in front of her, I just trunk chopped it, like ruthlessly. I trunk chopped it in front of her, and she was a little worried, like, Veer, how are you going to really manage this tree taking it back home? I don't think it's going to survive when you go back home. And I had to travel from Jaipur. I had to travel another 1 week. I was traveling to Bangalore. And then from Bangalore, I had to get back to Hyderabad, and from Hyderabad, I had to get back home. So it was almost another 10 days and this tree. So I totally packed it up in polythene. I will do a lovely live show for you all later on how you carry trees about, so that, how you keep them fresh and how you can really carry them around, so that it will be very interesting for you all. So wherever you go, you can pick up trees and you can pack them like the way I'm telling you to do it, and you can bring them home and you can really get it back. So when I took it back and then I brought it back, and finally when it landed home, it was 10 days after I had trunk chopped the tree, and then I had put it into a pot. I had taken a picture of it and I had sent it to her and I had shown it to her, and then finally, look, this is the growth of that tree. I think it is just about 2 months old. since I've got it from her. I trunk chopped this tree and I've created, this is called I don't know, they call it the wild durantha. That is what I heard. It is called the wild durantha. And I just want to thank Anita for this wonderful specimen that she has given me. I promise you to make this into a wonderful bonsai and, keep it in memory of you. Thank you so much for giving me this tree. And I'm so happy that it is growing so nicely for me. You can see, you can make up by the growth of this tree. So what happened was, after I potted it into this pot, I have just allowed it to grow wild. I didn't bother to trim it or do anything. I just wanted it, and in fact I've sent her a picture of this growth also, and she was very happy looking at the tree this way. So now I have brought it onto the table to show you exactly how would I design if I have a tree like this. So this tree was actually straight like this way. It was straight like this way. I had slanted it by purpose. I had slanted it down into a 45-degree angle, which would give more flow to the tree, I thought, and so I had just done it like that way. But now I'm just going to work on this tree. The first thing I would do was I'm just going to reduce the branches so that we can so I've just reduced the branches. Now I'm going to select my primary branches on my trunk. I'm going to select the primary branches and I'm going to create the structure of my tree. I may need to change the angle and the movement of, may need to change the flow of my trunk. So remember, see, such an outgrown tree, and I've just chopped it down. I'm least bothered because I'm more worried about creating my structure. If I'm worried, because that is the most important thing to me when I do a bonsai. I never ever compromise on the structure of my bonsai, the flow of my bonsai, the taper of my bonsai. I never ever compromise on that, because if I compromise on that, I know that in future I'm not going to have a wonderful tree which I could be proud about. So never ever, I request all of you, never ever compromise on your structures. Always please do give a lot of consideration to your structure, and then work on your tree from there. That is always, which is very important. And so let me just turn it. So this is going to be my front, because the movement, the character of the tree looks better from this side rather than from this side. I like the structure from this side. So let me see what I could really do to this tree. I would take this, I've got a lovely thing here. So I have to start now. All the branches are just going up. So I have got to do a lot of wiring to this tree, and I have to bring it down. I have to select my branches. Remember, if you have such a big bunch of branches in one position, you will end up with something known as reverse taper. Reverse taper is nothing but something that is much thicker than the bottom portion of your tree. A particular portion of your trunk which is much thicker than the bottom portion of your trunk. Always in a tree, the bottom portion, that is the base of your trunk, which is also called the navari, that is the portion which should always be thickest of your trunk, so that the taper is always maintained that way. So now I have to start selecting which primary branches I want, and then based upon that, maybe I have to think. And always when I'm designing my primary branch, when I'm selecting my primary branches, I should always remember that the branches should be on different levels. Never keep your branches on the same level, because again, reverse taper would form. So you should space out your branches according to different levels, so that you get an opportunity, so that what happens is the flow of energy, the flow of nutrients are equal. You do not get any reverse taper anywhere within your tree, and your tree will become wonderfully beautiful as you keep working on and on. So let's go about with this tree. I will select my primary branches, and then let me just wire them and flatten them and make them horizontal like this way, so that the tree starts spreading sideways and not just growing elongated. And remember, when the time comes, whenever you want to wire your branches, always remember, never wire your tender branches, Your tender branches is nothing but when the scab of your branch, this particular branch, when the scab is green in color, never wire them, because there are chances of you squashing it and lose and killing it, and it would get a shock. So always wait for the bark to form on your particular branch, and keep monitoring your tree. Remember, when it is flexible enough itself, you make sure you wire your branches horizontally and spread your branches so that you get the three-dimensional effect of your tree. Do not keep them horizontal, and do not wait for them to thicken, because once they thicken, they become very rigid and you won't be able to flatten your branches. So now let me just select what I want to do with this. So I've got this branch which is really just coming up, so I'm just going to remove that branch. I've got this that is just coming up. It will anyway further hit that branch. So this can go down, no problem at all. This will go down like this way. Now remember, can you see a stub over here, and this branch is moving? This branch over here, can you see, is actually on the inner portion of the curve. It's on the inside of the curve. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce this stub so that this will blend later on into that. So I will cut it off over there. Remember, be very careful when you're cutting your things, cutting your branches. Always use a good concave cutter so that thing. So now you look here, I've made it equal to this branch. I've made it equal. So what will happen over a period of time, as this branch keeps thickening and thickening, it would merge into this cut over here, and I wouldn't be able to see this scar. Maybe 3 years down the line, I won't be able to. Not even 3 years. I think within 1.5 to 2 years, I won't be able to see this cut over here. In fact, this branch would blend by then, because with the way of feeding I do, with the kind of growth, with the kind of climate that I have, plants grow very quickly over here because there's a lot of humidity over here. Plants go very, very fast for me. I'm fortunate to be born in a place like this way, and I'm fortunate to do bonsai also. So you see, so you watch, this is going to blend over here. This is going to blend over here, and over a period of time, it's going to catch up and it's going to become one lovely branch over there. So I have chosen, this is going to be my lower branch. This is going to be my lower branch. I don't think I would need a front branch right now over here, because maybe it would close things. I would rather go a little further down the branch and then create my front branch, so that this portion of my tree is more visible. And if you look at it, this here, I have two branches here on the same level over here. So I choose which I want. So I will choose the one at the side, because so I can make this is my new branch over here. I can make it. So I've got a branch here. Now this is too much towards the inner section. Maybe, okay, let me just keep it and see. I may think, so I'll remove that. And I can remove this too. This is also hitting my eye and it is too low. Do not empty up your front completely. Make sure you keep wonderful branches in the front also, because remember, there's something known as depth. What is depth? Like suppose you go under a huge tree. The moment you step under the tree, the shade begins. That is from where the trunk is till where the branches are spreading out. The moment you walk under the branch, the shade falls on you. So that place from where the shade falls on you till the trunk is called the depth of your tree. So when you're walking under the tree, you have to get the shade. So there is no such concept like you have to totally empty your tree in front. I would rather say just keep like maybe 1/3 of your front from the base of your tree. Keep about 1/3 of your tree visible, and maybe after 1/3 maybe you can keep a front branch. You can always encourage a front branch over there, and so that the depth of your tree would develop over there, and you would find it very interesting to you will find your tree very interesting. If you've noticed, the trees that I showed you, they have so much of depth and they've been growing. I mean, and that is the reason why they are looking so attractive from the front and from the back also. They look from the front and from the back also. They look very attractive. So never believe that you just have to remove every damn branch that is growing in front to just show the trunk, because I've been going around to so many places. I've been going around seeing so many trees. The most unfortunate thing about their trees, some of their trees, was I could see that they were just removing all the front branches. Well, that was how it was taught to them earlier. They were just removing the trees, the complete branches in front, and there was no depth in their trees. And the moment I look at the tree, I don't like being like I wouldn't say it's I don't like being actually keeping something within myself and saying something else. So very very sweetly and softly I just tell them, I find this little out of proportion because I can't see the branches in front. You've totally emptied out the branches in front. So the only way I tell her is you have to cut it back again. You have to cut it back again. Always remember, proportion also matters for your tree. You have to be very very proportionate when you are doing your bonsai. Remember, 6 times the thickness of your tree should be the height of your tree. 6 times the thickness of the trunk. So if your trunk is this thick, so that means your tree should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It should be this tall. People keep their trees this tall, they lose proportion, and your tree looks. The moment you lose proportion, you happen to lose the beauty of your tree. So proportion always matters in your tree. You should be very proportionate when you're doing your tree. So always remember, 6 times the thickness of your trunk should be the height of your tree. The more you keep it that way, the better it is going to be on how you are going to design your tree. So I'm just choosing the best possible primary branches for myself. The reason why you choose your primary branches is, first allow, when you get your tree from somewhere or from the wild, you just allow the tree to grow wild. Make sure that you do not cut it or do anything to it. Just allow it to grow wild. Let it give branches wherever it is possible. Then select your primary branches and remove the unnecessary branches, because the more you keep the unnecessary branches, remember, the energy will be flowing into all the branches and your tree wouldn't know which branch is important. So it would equally keep distributing its food and nutrients to all the branches. So what happens is all your branches take away the energy. So once you choose your primary branches, what happens is you are concentrating on the structure of your tree. So always remember, it's always better that you keep your primary branches in position so that you allow the tree to only feed those primary branches. So now after I selecting my primary branches today, any further new sprouts on the trunk, I will keep pinching it away, because I don't want any other further thing until and unless maybe I go to the upper level of the tree. But on the bottom level of the tree, on this particular old trunk, the old trunk portion, I wouldn't allow any new branches to sprout, because I have already selected my primary branches on them. So I think I've already almost I've done it. And now can you see, if you've seen here, now this and this is hitting, both are almost hitting. I'm going to reduce this trunk a little bit and make this my new leader. Can you see this branch at the bottom here? I'm going to make that as my new leader. So I'm going to go again for another chop over here. So this is how you have to refine your trees. Don't be scared to do these chops. If you're scared to do the chops, I promise you, you won't be able to make a good bonsai in future. So never compromise on your trees. Always try. If you're not comfortable using a concave cutter, you can always use a saw. You can use a saw and you can do the thing, but I'm lucky enough, like I'm quite comfortable with the Yeah, can you see now? I've created this as my new leader, so I have shortened this a little bit. Now what am I going to do? Can you see this sprout over here? Yes, this sprout over here, I'm going to, I mean, can you see this? So I'm going to, this is what the tree had given me, so now I've again reduced this portion, and I will have this, can you see over here, I will have this as my new leader. Now since, can you see the trunk is moving that side? Now I'm going to change the flow of my trunk towards this side, towards my side, so that it would look more interesting. And now I would go a little closer to the tree with the branches in a triangular format. I would go down in a triangular format a little closer to the tree. Now the reason why I'm going a little closer to a tree is, remember, if you leave your branch with this chop over here, the sprouts, if you keep it so tall, the sprouts will come only at this portion of your branch, and you won't get sprouts at the bottom portion. So I would always request, you go as close to the tree as possible, so that you do not encourage any negative spacing. Negative spacing is nothing but on your primary branches, when you do not have your secondary branches in the right positions, and when you have a lot of empty spaces, that is what you call, the empty spaces are called the negative spacing in your branches. So you have to make sure that you do not keep negative spaces in your branches, because remember, you are making a bonsai, you are not making a big tree. So whatever the ramification that you create, you have to create it within a particular circumference of your tree that you are going to. So you should have all the twigs in a very small circumference when you are doing it. So do not encourage negative spacing. So how you do not encourage negative spacing is going back as close to the last node as possible, so that the next sprout comes out and you get a good you will be able to get more sprouts, and then you can start flattening those sprouts. You can create pads in every level with regard to that. So I will just cut it down a little more, so that like I can encourage the So you see how close I got to. Sorry, I'm using the wire cutter and I'm cutting it out by mistake. So can you see how close I've got to the tree? Remember, getting as close to the tree as possible is only that the advantage of that is regarding you not keep avoiding the negative spaces that are there on the tree. Now you can take your wire. And you can wire your tree. You can wire your tree accordingly. Remember, when you're wiring your tree, do not hit the nodes. Always keep the nodes free, so that you don't It broke a little bit, but you can just put a plaster over here and you can rectify it, so it's not going to be a problem. Don't worry about it. And then you take another wire. I think I need a little thicker wire because this is moving back. Now remember, I wanted to tell you this. How do you know the intensity of wire, the thickness of wire that you can use on a particular branch? Now suppose I want to wire this particular branch. All you have to do is you take your wire like this way, press it against the branch like this. Just use the wire and push your wire like that. What happens is your wire is bending. See, the wire is bending. If the wire is bending, it only means that this thickness is not enough for this particular branch. So you have to go to the next gauge of wire. You use the next gauge. Or if you don't use the next gauge, and if your hands are not, most of the ladies, your hands are not strong enough for you to really wire the tree. So what you have to do is you can use double wiring. You can use the double wiring so that the intensity for this increases. So to know the intensity, just use this and just press the wire on that particular thing. So if it is bending, it means this thickness is not suitable for this wire. If it is not bending, it means that that wire is suitable for that particular branch. Remember to lock your wires whenever you are doing it, because that locking, when you make the bend, your branch won't slip out of the wire. So I've locked it over here, I've locked it here. That lock is very, very important. Remember that. And I can just put a tiny wire for this so that done. Your tree is done. So later on, I will just bring the movement of the tree towards this side, and then again I'll push it back towards that side. So this is how you initially create the structure of your tree. The more you do it like this way, the better your bonsai is going to be, and I promise you, you will have a wonderful structure later on. So that is how your structure is. So thank you, Anita. This is for you. Thank you so much. I'm so happy to have this, and I promise to make this into a wonderful bonsai and show it to you later on. I'll try my level best. Okay. So friends, I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you had a wonderful time. This is as much as you really need to know when we are creating structures of bonsai. Always remember the outer curves of the trunk is very, very important, and you're supposed to have branches. Close your eyes and remove the inner branches that are in the inner curve, and I promise you half your styling is over. Remember, Veer is nothing great. It's just that I just have the foundation of the basic foundation. I have it strong in my mind. So the moment I put a tree on the table, it's just that I get it out of my. I just understand easily how you can train a tree. So if in a similar manner, if you keep the basics strong in your mind, the moment you put the tree on your table, automatically you will be able to understand how to train your tree. So don't think like I'm a magician or something. I'm nothing actually. It's just that I have the foundation right strong in my mind, so that is why I'm able to do it this way. So please Please design your trees in this way from now. Don't be scared about growing your tree, cutting your trees down. It's these cuts only that is going to make it look more magnificent in future, and you're gonna enjoy it so much. So please don't follow the procedure of just designing your trees according to whatever the tree is there. Always make it a point that you cut it down and then you start from the bottom of your tree. So I've shown you three specimens today. So I'm happy that I just hope that you were happy to. I just hope it was informative enough for you to really understand how to make a bonsai. Listen, I would definitely do more live shows like this way with different topics, so that I can get closer to you. I cannot meet all of you, but then I would love to I just love bringing bonsai to people as much as possible, irrespective. It is not the money that matters. It is just that how much of interest and how much of love you have towards the art, and how much you want to bring it to people. And bringing it to people is very something that is most satisfying to me. So that is the thing. So I thought doing a live show would be the best, where I could meet the people who've been waiting for me and who've been wanting to learn bonsai from me. But then I didn't have the heart to keep you waiting, so I thought the best way was doing these live shows for all of you. So I'll come back. I'm going to travel. I'm going to leave today to Jaipur. So I'll be leaving today to Hyderabad. I'll be there in Hyderabad for 2 days, and then from there to Jaipur. So I need to pack up all my clothes, and I need to pack up everything. I need to pack up. So please understand. I just did this for all of you. Thank you so much for being there. Thank you so much for the patience listening to me. Wishing you all happy bonsai. Please be good to one another. Please share knowledge with one another. And I promise you, the more you share, the more you get. The more you share, the more you get.